posted a video last night and made it public today. I'm going to be expanding on that video and talking about why class action lawsuits aren't always a good idea. If you are anything like me, there's not many things you value more than truth, even if it's painful. And when someone bold-faced lies to you, uses you, manipulates you, and anything to that effect, it is one of the worst forms of betrayal. So as I said in my previous video, they did a editing hack job of epic proportions, totally fraudulent, totally scandalous, libelous, slanderous, all the words, defamatory. I could go on. Completely, I was completely hoodwinked and everything, to the point where their editing job was so slimy and grimy that it even fooled Teal Swan herself. She didn't even notice, her whole team didn't even notice that they did the scam job. I'll press play. You can see for yourself.
A practice where we do breath work in water and then help people to do a powerful release process for their pent-up emotions underwater has been shot to look like we are waterboarding people.
They were not
waterboarding. And they finish it off with Sabrina saying, "I love you." As if I...
Hold on. Remember, she just said she thought Sabrina said "I love you." That's how tricky their editing was. They didn't even notice the facial differences between me and Sabrina. I do not look like, no offense to Sabrina or anything like that, but we do not look alike. Besides us both having dark hair. If you put us side to side, it's like night and day. This message is for Bit Sola. I believe that's a stage name. The producer of the fraudulent hit piece miniseries that I was involved in. You bold-faced lied to me about who you are, what you're about, and the entire nature of your presence at the curveball retreat that I attended. I'm absolutely disgusted by your behavior and how you and your crew twisted events that I was a witness to that paints a beautiful healing retreat into a complete criminal, fraudulent bastardization aimed at destroying people's lives and careers. I don't know how you sleep at night. Maybe it's on piles of money. But I don't know. The person you portrayed yourself to be and the person that you are two totally different things. We've all fell for lies at some point or another, but I've never been fooled like this before by a human being, that is. You're a really good liar. I'll hand it to you. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Most people are generally honest, so it's hard for people to fathom how another living being could be so callous and manipulative and operate on a foundation of lies with a smile on their face for days on end. And in your case, Bits, Elizabeth, if that's your name, Sola, years on end. I invite everyone who was hoodwinked by the filmmakers that have been featured or witness to the events portrayed to follow in my footsteps by sending them a cease and desist and creating their own testimonies. You can use my template from my previous video titled Teal Swan Defense, include clauses in your affidavits of facts, and a reasonable time limit for them to rebut or cure. So a time limit would be like 10 to 30 days for them to rebut or cure your affidavit of facts. Also include them to release the raw, unedited footage of all the visual scenes that aired 1 hour before the scene that was aired and 1 hour after the scene that was aired. Also, in a separate file or a thumb drive, ask them to put in a separate file all the unedited audio with the correct and corresponding video, also 1 hour before and 1 hour after. Any video that also state in your case, any video that has been tampered with or edited will not be accepted, and you will be in default, which will result in respondent seeking substantial redress against you. See the fee schedule. So my fee schedule is up on the previous video, so check that out. We're talking millions of dollars here. Like, this isn't a joke. Like, I take my good name and my reputation very seriously, and I really don't like to be lied to. And you did plenty of that. Complete fraud. You're a complete fraud. And I won't stand for it. Not for a second. And I hope that everyone else that was involved gets some courage from me. We're all in this together, and I would hope that we all help each other out through these trying times, especially if you've been injured by this. And I know people have. I've been in communication with a few people, and it's bad. So trust and believe. We're not going to take this lying down. When you send out your cease and desist letters, make sure when you're sending your communications to the aforementioned people. In my previous video, look at the people that I mentioned. Basically, all the filmmakers, the producers, and the directors, and the film editors. Make sure to say, you shall limit your communication to writing at the above address only. If you have a P.O. box, if you don't have a P.O. box, I suggest you get one. Your privacy is important, and I would protect it by having a P.O. box. You don't want to have letters mailed to your personal private residence, or private home, I should say, not residence. Respondent will accept only your written communication. Do not send any communication from a bar member, as they are interlopers and have no personal first-hand knowledge in this matter, and doing so will result in a bar grievance filed against them. I'm currently working on my notice of claim, so that's underway. Again, all this stuff that I'm doing is I charge $500 an hour. Okay? So you can charge, if you want to charge $300 an hour for all the work that you're doing to defend yourself and your rights, go right ahead. I actually had a long conversation, which I stated earlier, with Bits Sola, who is from England. She's not American. More of a side note than anything, but it sort of paints the picture that maybe you can sort of piece together later. So previous to meeting her in physical real life, I spoke, like I said earlier, I spoke to her for like half an hour to an hour. It was actually a quite long conversation with someone who's effectively a stranger. I remember mentioning I remember her mentioning that they've been filming for many months previous to their plans to film the retreat that I attended. I actually remember discussing that I worked in film production before, and I actually wondered how such a small independent film crew was funding their project. I asked her what her plans for the footage was, and she alluded that she wasn't completely sure. I actually suggested to her that she should make it a series because I was dumbfounded by how much footage they've already had, like hundreds and hundreds of hours. I was like, damn, you guys have been filming for a really long time. Like, haven't you got enough footage to put a 1 or 2 hour documentary together? Like, I thought that was a little bit nuts. Especially when they had the conversation we had, it didn't seem like they had they didn't have solid funding or a clear direction. But they portrayed themselves as an independent crew that was, just trying to do good work. And I had no business in telling them that, hey, you might lose money trying to make this documentary. But as it turns out, they got a pretty large network and distributor in the end, And as far as I can tell, it's affiliated with an organization that may start with an R and end in a feller. If anyone knows anything about that, I mean, come on. Whether they were backed from the beginning, which now thinking back, hindsight's 2020, that logically makes more sense because of all the man hours that were put into following Teal Swan in her every move. So it seems like logically that they were funded well before. The truth will be revealed in any court case or legal battle. There is no evidence that you cannot get before trial. I'm going to repeat that. There is no evidence that you cannot get before trial. If you haven't gotten all your evidence before trial, you've screwed up. And if you hired a pettifogger shyster attorney, they screwed up, and you should fire them and possibly bar grieve them. I also want to remind everyone, Don't think the average American doesn't have a lot of power. You have a lot of power, especially if you're honorable and you tell the truth. Everything relies on facts and evidence. And because I have personal first-hand knowledge, I am quite confident that the truth will be revealed and the criminals will be brought to justice. Okay, class action lawsuits. I won't be doing a class action lawsuit if there is one, in this case or any case in the future, and I'll tell you why. Mainly they're risky, and if you lose for whatever reason, all 20 or 100 people that are in the class action lawsuit, they lose too. Everyone loses. You all lose together. And two, if you end up winning, they'll just divide up the money, and typically the attorney gets a cut. How much the cut is obviously is may or may not be negotiable. They get their cut, and then you're left with possibly a lot less than you anticipated. If you're looking for monetary damages, I don't care about, honestly, like I could make $1 million, get $1 million from this lawsuit. But what's more important to me is the truth. And yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly happy and fine living my middle class life. I would rather the truth get out there than have a bunch of money and be living a lie. But that's just me. That's just where, my integrity lies and who I am as a person. Not everyone's like that. There's a ton of sellouts. Okay, well, I think that wraps it up for now. I will be doing another video where I look at the video that I was in, that I was a witness to, and I point out all the disparities and the problems with the editing, where you hear the audio, but you don't see the visuals attached to it, which is really a really tricky thing, and it's criminal in my opinion. Straight up defamation. Everyone has unalienable rights. That means they cannot be liened, which a lien is a financial instrument. It's important to learn how to assert your rights. You have rights, but most people don't know how to assert them. So my whole goal for this year, at least, in the next coming years, is to help people assert their rights. I am going to lead by example. I'm learning as I go. I'm certainly not a law expert by any means, and I'm not a bar member, and I probably will never be a bar member. I want to live a private, happy life, but unfortunately our rights are being infringed upon on so many aspects, and I'm personally had my good name defamed, and I am going to involve you in the process of me trying to assert my rights. So I hope for your support and well wishes. No one should trample on your rights, and you don't let them get away with it.